Hello and welcome to The Good, the Bad and the Worst, a podcast suffering an identity crisis, but for this moment, still reviewing movie series and attempt to decide which movie is like a slice from Patsy's Pizzeria and which movie is like a noisy toy rocket ship. I am your host, Conan, and joining me are my two fellow survivors.
I'm Griner, and I heart New York.
And I'm Luke Morgan, and I wrote a poem about these movies. It's called This Place is Shit.
All right. It's a good segue. We're talking about A Quiet Place, which is now officially a trilogy. John Krasinski's Baby consists of A Quiet Place Part 2, and A Quiet Place Day 1. Despite John Krasinski's name, not a lot of comedy in these movies, which is interesting. I don't know. What do you guys... Yeah.
I was going to say, would you describe him as like a comedy star post Office? Because I don't feel like he's done much comedy since then.
He's done action.
Jack Reacher.
Yeah, he's rebranded. Yeah, he definitely doesn't seem like he wants to...
Multiverse of Madness.
Yeah, true.
Oh, yeah.
No,
you're right.
He doesn't look at the camera nearly as much as he used to either.
No. And I don't know, one could argue we're worse for it, one could argue we're better. But yeah, I definitely this trilogy is kind of like a skeleton key to view him and his career, I think. But it shows what he wants and what he thinks of himself and what he sort of values. And it's interesting comparing that to The Office, which is obviously everything that sort of set him up and gave him a career in the first place. But I don't know, we might talk about it later. Maybe we won't, I don't know. Do you guys like these movies? Do you guys have any relationship to them?
I do. I really like these movies, actually. There was a time where it felt like horror was going through like a let's take away one of their senses. I don't care. Like Bird Box comes to mind as like the one that came out. I think a lot of them came out post A Quiet Place, but some of them are kind of fun. Like I didn't hate Bird Box; wasn't very good, to be fair. Quiet Place, part like the first one, I really, really enjoyed that movie. There's a movie called Hush about a deaf woman. Love that movie. Yeah. It's really, really good.
Mike Flanagan, yeah.
Yeah. But A Quiet Place, like I just remember sitting in a cinema and just like the silence being palpable and that being a really, really cool cinema experience and having a really, really good time with that. And then, I don't know, I have a connection to the second movie too because it came out while my daughter was in hospital. Like she's preemie, we couldn't do much, but we took a night off and went to see A Quiet Place in the cinema, and I'll always remember that as like a movie we saw while we were in hospital with her.
I mean, a lot of like scenes where the baby's involved and it's like quite a traumatic thing.
Yeah, it was a bit of a weird coincidence, but
yeah, great.
Lots of oxygen bottles used in that movie and for my baby. But anyway,
relatable. I feel like I was intrigued when this was sort of first announced and it was coming out because I was like, this is Last of Us. I was like, this was before we got a Last of Us TV show. And I was like, this sounds exactly like The Last of Us. Post-apocalyptic. They based off sounds, not as obviously to the degree that it is in these films, but it reminds me of the clickers from The Last of Us. Even the fact that the second one's called Part 2, I'm like, John Krasinski, I see you. I know you're a fan. I know you're a fan. But yeah, I remember, and same as what Griner said, like the thing I remember so much is just this. I can't recall any other movie where it's just silent. Where I remember being super conscious throughout, being like, my God, everyone can hear me eating my popcorn. And I'd have to pick my moments and I'd be like, okay, rummage. I'd eat some popcorn and stop. And like this third one, I was like ruining the experience for the guys because I was just like sitting there like munching popcorn and I was just like, okay, quiet scene. I was like, okay, I got probably 20 minutes for the third one. I was like, I got 20 minutes before all shit goes down. So I'm just going to smash my popcorn out.
But it was definitely people eating that ruined the third movie for sure.
Yeah, opening the packets and not me. I picked my moments. I picked my moments. But yeah, I've always really enjoyed it. And there's certain stuff that I'd forgotten about the films, but there's certain scenes that always stuck out to me, like the rocket ship. Like I feel just like that whole scene for scene, like I can remember that whole thing all these years later. So yeah, I enjoyed it. It was good to go back and watch them again. So
yeah,
it's such a kind of a, on one hand, not a cinematic idea. Like forcing you all to be quiet and listen. You're right, in a cinema is kind of tricky when everyone's slurping and people are making out in the background and on the phone and all that stuff. But then on the other hand, when it works, it's kind of it's this beautiful synthesis of what the cinema experience should be, where you're all collectively quiet in the dark, participating. And so it is interesting that I guess when you get a good audience, like my story is always with Quiet Place Part 2. This about a quarter of the way in, this older Asian gentleman walked in, and he sort of just comes and sits down sort of in front of a few of us, and then within seconds you see this and just like it's quiet and everyone's there and you see this snoring. It's like, I'm pretty sure he just came in to sleep in the movie theater, and it was very strange and no one wanted to say anything, and it kind of took us out. But it was. He
had
funny.
No idea it was a movie. He was just looking for a quiet place to lay down, and he was like, "Oh, here we go, quiet place."
So this should be
perfect.
Yeah, but yeah, I don't know. This trilogy is pretty interesting. Like, concept horror is always a pretty bankable idea. Just, do you know what's scary? And insert sentence here, and say, can't make a noise, can't see anything, can't hear anything. They haven't made anything about taste yet, which is a shame. I can't wait to see the Bear horror film where it's like Kami can't taste and all sort of hell breaks loose. All right, let's do some stats.
Stats.
Quiet Place, 2018, directed by John Krasinski. He's also a co-writer, but the main story and screenplay are by a pair called Brian Woods and Scott Beck. On a budget of $17 million, it made $341 million.
Woo!
Yeah, I forgot how big this movie was.
That's a small budget too.
It is, yeah. Like, it doesn't cost much to make. It's like, we'll get into that. Metacritic of 82, which is really high. Quiet Place Part 2, 2020 release, written and directed solely by John Krasinski this time. On a $61 million budget, it made $297 million. So that's pretty good. Still, that hangover pandemic numbers as well. So
I mean,
you got to think
that was peak pandemic, wasn't it?
Sorry, I think it's actually 2021. I think I've miswritten that. Grant, when was your daughter born?
Oh, don't do this to me. 2021.
It's 20 or 21, yeah.
It's 2021.
Same age as my daughter. Yeah, so sorry, I got that wrong. 2021. So it was hangover. Like, it was still, cinemas were still a bit slow, but I don't know, still a success despite that. Metacritic of 71. Quiet Place Day 1, 2024 release, directed this time by Michael Sonoski of Pig fame, the Nicolas Cage vehicle. Written by Sonoski, John Krasinski, and Brian Woods, returning this time as well. $67 million budget, has thus far made $178 million. So successful, making bank, and it's still playing in cinemas. Yet to go to streaming, so that's only going to go up from here, which is, again,
it's going to streaming in 3 weeks, which is weird because it's had a good opening weekend and week, so it's a weird decision.
Yeah, I mean, those decisions are made before this happens, but it's the wrong decision. I think you're right in saying, like, just judging by these numbers already, it's like they should have wrote it out a bit further, and
they probably didn't have that much faith in it. Maybe
no, I don't think they do, and we'll definitely talk about the lack of faith, whether earned or not. Metacritic score of 68 from that one. Do you guys think those numbers are accurate? Like, those Metacritics dwindles, drops off.
Yeah, I would agree.
Scandalous. Yeah. God, hot takes coming in. Oh,
yes,
maybe one of them is a little too high, but anyway, if you really want a hot take,
this is number one. All right, let's get into it, actually, because that is correct. That's the hot take. A Quiet Place. I forgot to get a synopsis, but I'll think of it real quick. A family struggles for survival in a world invaded by alien creatures who can hear really well.
Nailed it.
Really well.
Thank you. Real good. They good hearers.
Yeah. They're good listeners.
Yes.
just what people have been looking for.
That's why this movie worked, in a world that is just more attuned to mental health. Like, we need good listeners in A Quiet Place. Anyway,
exactly.
All right, I'm just going to come out and say it. On the rewatch, this movie didn't do it for me.
Interesting.
Can
you pinpoint like I guess first question, did it work for you in the original, in your first thing, like the first time you watched it?
I think so. I look back and being like, I know that the main thing I remember is thinking it was overrated then. Like 82, I was like, holy crap, that is a big rating for a horror movie. I'm there. When saw this, and I was like, that's good. I don't know why it's got that high of a score though. And I do think this movie has had a lot of, I don't know, a disproportionate amount of love, and I'm not sure exactly why. Maybe it's just because
It's
what's
got the
that?
John Krasinski, Emily Blunt rub.
I wonder if part of it is that like they are super charming and charismatic, and they could probably do some more rubbing on it, honestly, but still pretty good. And like I think, like you said, right, it's a concept horror and it's executed like very competently. So I wonder if a lot of people, I wonder if that's just part of it. It's like coming out of this, you're like, so what I'm trying to say is the concept had every reason to go wrong, and getting a movie as good as we did, I think, myself included, was like, oh yeah, that's really good because I wasn't expecting it to be so good. But on this rewatch, it felt pretty, yeah, it felt pretty thin. That's the big thing. Like, there's just so many loopholes and contrivances that I couldn't stop butting up against, and even the familial story at the core, where it's a hang up about his daughter doesn't know if she loves him or not. It's like, I don't know, that didn't click. That just felt really sort of forced.
Yeah, I'll concede that. Yeah, that story, especially on a second rewatch, is like doesn't that yeah, I don't know, it doesn't hold water. I disagree though. I freaking love this movie. I loved it the first time I saw it. I loved it watching. I really enjoyed watching it this time too. Like,
Tell me why. What about it?
I don't know. It just worked for me. Like I first showing, like I had that experience in the cinema. It was everybody was in on it. Everybody was drinking the Kool-Aid. We were all quiet, and you could just the silence was palpable. Watching it myself, I watched it by myself this time with headphones on, like early in the morning, and just I don't know, something about it just hit. Like I was just enthralled by these characters. I do think Emily Blunt and John Krasinski just ooze charisma. I wish John Krasinski was my dad. Like he's the dad in this movie.
Good father.
The scene,
where's great sweater? Like that sweater he has. Where's the shit out of it?
Yes, man can wear a sweater and grow a beard. Like,
yeah.
He's got everything. Like, I will agree. I was picking some holes in this. Partly, I don't know. Some of them were like, okay, we've seen day one now. None of this makes any fucking sense. Who the hell is printing missing people signs in this world that would just get instantly destroyed? But like, none of that really mattered to me that much. I could forgive that, especially knowing we didn't really know what happened on day one when this movie came out, and looking at that as kind of a retcon to come afterwards. Things like the whiteboard that are like creatures, armor.
What is the weakness?
What is the like? Oh, get this shit out of here! So unnecessary. It's like this weird exposition that nobody needs.
It's video game environmental storytelling.
Yeah.
It's like very basic.
It lingers on it for a really long time.
They really tried to.
It goes back to it at the end too. Yep. Like she looks at the board and she's like, "Oh, weakness."
That's where her epiphany comes from. Yeah, like that. Obviously, that shit me to tears. But there's some scenes in this that really, really do it for me. Like the kid at the start getting destroyed. And you just like you hear him turn on the thing, and it goes to the deaf girl's point of view, and the family is just screaming in silence. And I don't know, that
Emily Blunt is awesome in that scene.
I don't know, that scene was so effective to me, like so effective. And then like the final kind of in like the moments where Emily Blunt is giving, like she's in labor, she's got a nail in her foot, she's alone in a house with the monster, like Chekhov's nail in the board, like the whole thing worked really well for me. Like as soon as you saw that nail get pulled, okay, I know exactly what's going to happen, but I'm okay with that. Like the tension of knowing when she's going to stick her damn foot on that. Why is there a nail like that in there at all? They can't use hammers. You cannot swing a hammer in that universe without dying.
Yeah.
How do you get rid of that nail without a hammer?
I mean, but why is there just a random nail sticking out? Like, look, nails anyway.
I agree, there are some contrivances. And even, I don't know, even the whole solution to the monsters being the hearing aid and the feedback thing is a little, I don't know, they double down on it in the second one. It's not my favorite thing in the world, but
I don't mind that though.
this
I don't
I think the
It's
setting
neat,
and the
neat.
tension of the monsters, like just their cornfield with the lights above it and how they flick them to red when something goes wrong, and lighting the signal fires and looking at all the other farms around the place, like all of that worked really well for me. And I don't know, I was just bought in 100%.
That's the thing. I think I appreciated and liked it more the first time I watched it because I knew less about the world. And like, that bridge scene with the kid getting taken, that's your first time seeing what these enemies are. And like I had watched no trailers going in, so I actually had no idea what are these monsters or, anything like that. And
Yes.
it's such a shocking moment to introduce them as like, oh yeah, no, you make a noise, you're done for most of the time, unless you're near like a waterfall, or something like that. But
Another plot
then
hole.
you can scream, man. Throw caution to the
No,
wind.
water is loud. I don't know if you've ever been
Build
brushing
your
your
house
teeth and your
near a
wife is yelling
waterfall
at you
then.
on the other side. Oh, look,
Yeah, move to the
I won't
waterfall.
disagree with that. Yes, sure. Okay,
Simple.
look.
Turn a shower on, and then
You're
Fair,
about to have
fair.
a baby, and you're like, "I'll make an elaborate soundproofing system." It's like, no, just go for a friggin' walk to the waterfall. Anyway,
Okay.
or go for a long walk where as your wife's due to have a baby.
I love you. Yeah,
Go for an excursion.
And walk on a
Um,
path past a house that apparently has people living in it, but you've never seen them before. Like, yeah, it was a bit strange.
It's like, I this time definitely I felt like I was picking more holes at it, and like my wife was as well. Where it was kind of annoying her. She was just like, "Oh, like why is that like that?" Or like, "What? Why is this not that and that's that way?" But I do really enjoy the world. Like Ryan said, I love like the aesthetic of it, the like the red lights and all that. Looks really cool, and it's all orchestrated, and they've got the campfires and stuff like that. I really like John Krasinski as a leading man. Um, and yeah, I do agree. I dislike the whole arc of her being hung up that it's her fault and that he doesn't love her because you feel like after 3 years they should have resolved that by now.
It's a
Or
very long like gap of time to be still holding on to that.
to
I feel like,
still to still have that thought without ever saying that he loves her, and for it to be the big emotional thing at the end that his sign language is like, "I've always loved you." It's like, well, no shit, you're her dad. Like, like
you're clearly doing a lot for her already.
you're building like hearing aids for her when what was your job before? You're probably not a hearing aid expert.
That's the
So
thing, yeah. When he does that, and she's really shitty at it, she's like, "It won't work," and that's meant to make you think, "Oh yeah, she does." She feels like he doesn't love her. I'm like, this is the opposite of what's happening here. He's clearly doing something so selfless and trying so hard. Like, why are you still? Yeah, it's. I don't, it's trying. I think it's trying to have that like parental guilt, but it's told from her perspective, which is the wrong way to do it. You both mentioned the stage, like the set design. You're right. Like that really holds up. The farmhouse. That's probably part of the reason why they filmed it there because like that looks really cool. Whereas having a little shack near a waterfall would just not look as cinematic.
Yeah.
All that's. I think this movie operates on that wavelength where if you can buy into it, if you can just, as with a lot of horror films, I guess, if you can look past the strings and go, I'm on the wavelength, it works. Like, it definitely does work. And it does a good thing by making the story about the family rather than about aliens, rather than about trying to find a solution to them. It's not like, how do we bring back civilization? It's just like, no, it's literally a story about parents trying to be parents and the burden and the weight of that.
It's a post-apocalyptic story without humans being the monsters either, which is so often the way it's done. I'm all there for that too. Like, I think that can be really effective as well, and they kind of go into that direction a little bit in number 2. But like, there's very few other characters other than the family, and you're right. Like, I think they're smart for concentrating on that.
Yeah, and like you can tell that's why so many of the cracks are there where it's like, this doesn't really make sense. The aliens, this is my big hang up, is like, what the hell do these aliens want? They don't eat they don't eat their thing. They don't eat who they kill.
Yep.
They literally just seem like mindless killing machines, but they're also incredibly careful and patient, and
that's what trips me out is it's like I feel like we never see like bodies everywhere or skeletons everywhere. Like, if 90% of the planet have been wiped out by these things, you'd think it'd be like a graveyard everywhere of like bones and like, but you just see the shoes, like because they've picked them up and flown them away, sort of thing, and
Yeah.
just quickly kill them off elsewhere. Are they eating them? No, it doesn't seem like it.
Yeah.
They just are telling them shut up, and just kill them to death and then run away.
But I think for me, that's why number one is the most effective of the three, because it doesn't try to show that larger universe. Like, there's very few even scenes where you would expect to see skeletons, right? Like, they spend a small amount of time in town, and it's concentrated on, like, you know, one small stretch of town, and who knows, Dad probably went there and cleared out the skeletons so they could take the kids there safely. Like, I can easily, you know, work around that conceit. And the monsters, you're right, like, for me, as soon as they try to expand this universe, it totally falls apart, which is why for me, part 2 is weaker, and Day 1 is a terrible movie, and I didn't really enjoy it.
Oh,
okay, we're going to come back, but no, you are totally right. Like it, you are totally correct. Like this movie, as soon as the universe gets expanded, it's nonsense. And the first one does a good job by like you don't actually. It starts off really well where you don't really see the monsters, like that first scene with the kid. By the way, I have no sympathy for that kid. I'm like, your dad hasn't told you to stop making noise, and he's like, no, he brought this on himself. But like,
there was, I don't know, for some reason I literally had a news article the other day come up like the kid at the start of The Quiet Place deserved it. Like, I can't totally disagree, but like still.
No, but like this is the thing, right? I feel like as I watched this with my wife, straight away we're like, oh, we're fucked. We're done. Like we'd be dead so quick. There's no way our kids would stay quiet in this world at all. Like
there's definitely the baby stage which they solve in number 2, but there's a stage there from like 1 to 4. I don't know, maybe if you grew up in a silent world, you're not noisy. Anyway, sorry, I'm theory crafting.
No, maybe, and like I guess that's why this kid does it, because he doesn't fully understand. But I'm just like, I feel like John Krasinski has belted into him. Do not make a noise, or so help me, we all die. Like I don't know, but back to my point, it's that opening is good in terms of you don't really see the monster. You see some sort of shadowy figure, and then you just see this something huge and creepy, like, you know, leap past. And that's like, oh, I have no idea. And it's like, maybe this is, you know, and then you get into that cool realm of like, maybe these monsters aren't real. Maybe they're like something spiritual. Maybe it's something higher concept. Who knows? But then towards the end, when it's like, no, they are literally these giant, you know, armored beasts that you can see inside their eardrums. What's their metabolism? How are they functioning?
I agree. They show the monsters too much. I will agree with you there.
And that's why the budget.
Why did they travel there? Is that a spaceship they traveled in, or is that just their monsters on a meteor?
That's exactly right.
Again, though, for me, I don't need any of these answers with what part 1, like the first movie, gives me.
Yeah.
Right? Like with what the first movie presents, I can suspend disbelief enough to not need to know where they come from, how they got there, what they eat. I just need to know that they're creatures, they have armor, and they have a weakness. And they put it on a whiteboard for me. So
so clearly, I guess I have trouble seeing past it, even from the first one, where I'm like, I don't know, just show me a scene of them eating a body or something, rather than just like. It just seems like it's not thought out enough, and I don't want it to be like, here is all their lore and backstory. But all I didn't know was like they're predators or something.
It feels like they pop up for a jump scare and a kill. Like,
yeah.
There needs to be something there, but probably not the direction they're going in.
Yeah. Exactly. A couple of other questions. Where does the electricity come from? Like, generators, the grid should not be working.
No,
it's 500 days later.
I mean, my understanding is the grid doesn't work. They probably have solar. That's the only way, really. That's the only way to silently generate electricity that I'm aware of. Hydroelectric would work, because apparently they don't care about the noise of water.
It would be more reasons for them to move to a dam.
Yep.
I really want to. Quiet Place Part 3 should just be set on the Hoover Dam, but
you don't see monsters at all. The whole movie.
It's just them chilling at the Hoover Dam. Like, life's good. Life is great here. Would you guys call this a horror movie, or would you call it more of like a thriller? I don't know.
It's a horror movie.
I don't know. I struggle to identify the difference, but
there really isn't much like gore or like, oh god, that's horrific. It's more like
No.
jump scary and atmospheric of like, oh my god, being quiet, like
Tension.
tension.
Mm.
So, but I don't know. I still think it's considered a horror.
I think it is.
Yeah, okay. I suppose, I wonder if
I mean, you're the
for me,
expert. What's your opinion?
Yeah.
well, I wonder if for me that was part of the reason why when I came out, I was like, why is this being so highly rated for a horror film? And I'm like, maybe it's because it's kind of not horror and everybody could enjoy it.
Mm.
But it's definitely like it's on the line. It probably is, but I don't know. Something about it that I haven't really investigated is like makes me want to pull back and say it's not.
There's part of me that I was like, my kids could watch this. I'll show this to my kids, and maybe they'll start being more quiet. You know?
Well, like there's something to that, right? Like I've been rewatching the X-Files, best show ever made, and that is the kind of show that is made for. It is not made for kids, but it's like it was made for prime TV. So there was very little gore, and when there is, like, it's pretty. Like there are moments of gore, definitely, but like it's kind of done in that way where you're like, you could all, this could be PG-13. It's a hard PG-13, but it is nonetheless like it's not R, it's not MA, it's like kind of for teens. And this is in that same realm. Like I can imagine showing this to like an 8 or a 9-year-old and being like, it might you might have nightmares, but it's not going to scar you. Whereas horror, I don't know, I can't really think of any horror movies that I'd be like to my young child, don't worry, this will be okay. But I don't know why I even have to talk about this. Do you guys have anything else to say about part one?
No.
Do you think?
Sorry, go ahead. No, because this is really a part 2 question.
Do you think the ending and John Krasinski dying was because they weren't sure if there'd be a second one? And like, I feel like the ending shot of like all of them rushing in, and it's just like, what's going to happen? Like, can she get out of it? But not really a plan for a sequel. Let's see how this movie goes.
100%.
Yes. Yeah, I don't think anybody like. I remember this being the narrative. No one expected this to be big. Everyone was like, "Oh, okay, it's the guy from The Office is making a horror film. That's cool." With these can sometimes work. We now have a long line of comedy guys moving on to horror, like Jordan Peele, the guy who made Barbarian. Was it Zach, whatever his name is? Anyway, yeah. So it's like,
yeah,
no,
yeah.
not
Zac Efron,
main character from Barbarian.
I want to see all of their horror movies too. But yeah, like at the time, I was like, "Oh, this is quirky. This is quaint. Let's see what it does." And it's blew up. Like, for whatever reason, everybody wanted to see this movie. Everyone did, yeah. But I don't think there was and like that shows in 2 and 3. There is the lore is so half-assed.
I really like the score, like the main theme of the movie. There's just like this little piano tune that plays, and it's kind of haunting in a way, and I really like it.
Yeah, I think it's effective.
Yeah.
Who did the music for this? Is there a I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. But you're right, there are a lot of small choices here that are really good and like give me faith in Krasinski as a director. Like the toying with the no audio, the audio, and he does it more in part 2, where you hear a lot of things from the daughter's point of view. That's a really cool choice. The moment where him and his wife Emily Blunt go down and like they sort of slow dance with the music, like that's just a very, very simple, very quiet, like sort of human moment. Like this is effective. He's got a good eye for little bits like that.
But
yeah, bigger picture is where he struggled, I suppose.
It's also like you couldn't help but be like, why would you get pregnant? Like, why would you do that in this world after you'd already lost that one that way?
Well,
like,
that's why they
got
replaced
ripped apart. Yeah, it's kind of messed up. It's like, yeah.
Hot take: are they bad parents? No, you're right. And like, I think that's where there's an interesting thing. There's an interesting story here that's not fully developed of like the burden of parenthood, right? Or like a metaphor for like the crucible of that, where you are bringing your kids into a world where they're going to eventually die. You're going to die. Existence is short and brutal. But there's a real like we just keep doing it, and there is an indescribable beauty to it, and that's why the human race is propagated for as long as it has. Where on one hand, that the anti-natalist movement could be like, why would you ever want to doom kids to this?
Yeah,
and this is that's that brought to the nth degree in this, where it's like, why would you want to bring kids? But then Emily Blunt has that line. She's like, "Who are we if we can't protect them or something?" And like,
Mm.
that's interesting. Like parents become defined by their kids, and there's a tragedy but a beauty to that. And that's what I mean by Krasinski's skeleton key. Like as a father married to Emily Blunt, I think he's really trying to figure out what his role as a parent is. And this movie is kind of him trying to navigate that and be like, what is my job here? Which is interesting. All right, moving on. Quiet Place Part 2. Following the catastrophic outcomes of A Quiet Place Part 1, I haven't written down a synopsis for this either. The Abbott family must face the terrors of the outside world, where they go out and find Cillian Murphy in a smelting plant?
Factory of some
Factory,
sort?
yeah. Basically, they have to go on a road trip. This is a
Would it
road.
have been better if Cillian Murphy was Dwight Schrute, Rainn Wilson, and he's like, Jim's gone. Damn it! I thought that flyer was him. That flyer was him.
I am there for like an office reunion in this world, but no. No, this is a road movie, and I really like road movies. I don't know. I like, we have to get from A to B, and the path is going to be treacherous.
Yep.
It's just a good, a timeless. Like exactly right. It's a timeless, tested narrative form. I enjoy it. I really rate this movie. I think I actually like this maybe a little bit more than the first one, which is interesting. Yeah, I found it more entertaining on this watch as well. And I think it's because it's got that propulsion of just like how they're going to get from here to there and what they're going to do.
I think this movie has some really, really good pacing. I will agree. Like the first one does meander a little bit, and like you don't move away from the farm, which can make it feel a little, I don't know, claustrophobic in a way. But this movie, it does a good job of chugging along, and then like that final act of where you get, you've got these three perspectives, and they all kind of collide is like very well done. Chef's kiss.
Kick-ass cross-country montage.
Yep.
Eat it, Christopher Nolan. Take some lessons from John Krasinski. He's out here showing him up.
Yeah.
Luke, I assume you hate this movie because of that. It shows you boy up.
No, I didn't think it showed my boy up at all. I was like, oh, this is where Oppenheimer met his wife. I really like this movie. I probably didn't originally enjoy it more than the first one. Probably on the rewatch, I do enjoy it more than the first one. I like Cillian Murphy a lot, and I love me a road trip in the apocalypse. I love seeing a great civilization that's just been peaceful and loving, and people just come. The main characters go there and just F it all up for them.
Yeah,
like in a night, like one night they're there.
Yep.
It's just all these people. Such a waste of is it Jimon Honsu? I'm not sure how you pronounce his name, but that's such a waste in this movie. Like I'm glad he came back because he's there for one scene and then he goes out like a bitch too of just being like, no, I better go back. Like as in like
trying to protect his family. What a loser.
But it comes across it's such a cliche of a horror thing. Like, no, I've brought you to this destination. It's my time to die. Bye. And then he gets dragged out the door. It's like, oh man, that's a shame. But I really like the tension in this movie. I disliked the boy child in this one because I was like, what a wiener. Like, stop ruining all this shit for them, Like, closes the bloody gate and doesn't put the blanket over it. Like,
I'm going to put your foot in a bear trap and we'll see how much you scream.
Screams.
It's like, stop screaming, Luke. It's no big deal.
No, but it's like, this movie has a lot of tension.
Yes.
And I think it's very well done. I remember when I first watched it being like, okay, like this is where it ends. Like it's kind of interesting to have this movie end and to not have the characters reunite. Like to not have Emily Blunt see her daughter again after she went out and then she sends Cillian Murphy to go get her daughter back. She never sees her again. Obviously, she knows she was successful with the radio and stuff like that, but it's a weird choice to not have them reunite or anything like that. It's sort of left blank that they're in separate parts of this world, and but I really enjoy it though.
Yes, like at least you're hopeful, kind of. Like
Yeah.
it definitely ends on a hopeful note. But yeah, it's interesting they're not reunited. Did you guys? All right. So my question was, and we kind of talked about like how the first one ends with all the monsters coming in on the cameras, right? Are we to? Is that retcon to have not happened? Is that what happens?
It's retcon to be maybe 2 or 3 got to the house because there's a couple of dead ones. There's a couple of dead ones in the basement, like 2.
Is there more
3.
than what she killed already though? Maybe there is, but
I think there's 1 or 2 more. That's it.
Yeah,
But not the apocalypse that was showing up at the end on them cameras at the end of the movie where they're coming from every direction.
Yeah.
My theory is she turned on a tap and they all just got confused.
They just ran away.
They're like, oh, don't worry, boys, just water. I don't want anything to do with this.
All right, story checks out.
Move along. Nothing to see here, boys.
Or she just, shotgunned the shit out of them. It's like, boom. And like formed a barricade of dead monster bodies.
I want to see the dead monster bodies. I need proof.
Barricade.
I liked seeing the day 0, day 1.
Opening scene is really good. Great subversion. You think it's just the town again, and then the truck comes past, and you're like, "What? You can't drive trucks!" But then it turns out it's day 1. It's like, oh,
it looks abandoned. It's
Vicky Krasinski, you've done it again.
Small town baseball. Everybody's there.
Yeah. The whole town's like, and you can see why with that scene alone, everyone's like, "God, we really need a day 1 movie, right?" Because I think that was the feedback. Because it's like that opening scene's really good.
Yep.
The long take when Emily Blunt's in the truck and she's like going up, stops near the bus, has to reverse back, and you see the thing crawl. I'm like, really, really well done. But
I find it interesting how quickly people figured out not to make noise. Not everyone, obviously, but like, John Krasinski.
John did.
He figured it out. He just knew, don't make any noise.
Yeah.
I mean, I suppose it's a natural thing if you're trying to hide from something to not be loud.
I had the same thought. I was like, I don't know, because it takes a strong person to not scream when you see your loved ones getting torn asunder. And for everyone to just gather up and be like, don't, But I guess that's it, it's like if you're hiding, you're right, you don't want to make a noise, and they'd probably notice. I don't know. Again, once you put these movies under any scrutiny, they just start to fall apart.
I mean,
the other question that gets me in all of these movies is how the monsters don't like go after each other.
This is that is exactly right. Like, I guess as a species, you could be like, it's just racist monsters. You could be like, oh, they've learned to understand each other, but I get, like if they're hacking into a building, that building's crumbling. Why are they not going crumbling building? Go for that. Like it's complete nonsense. Yeah,
and you never see one example of it ever.
No, and that would have been so much. Like that's what I would love to see. This almost like day 1. There's like 100, and they're all just hacking apart everything. And by the end of it, there's like 4 or 5 that all scatter around, and it's like, oh, if they run into each other, they'll probably kill each other. Like I don't know. Like there's so many slightly more interesting things, or at least thinking this through a little bit. Because I'm saying, like, how do they jump onto boats? How can they tell where the boat is? How do they? I don't know.
Maybe we're inferring that they're blind and they're not. Like I don't think we ever. I don't know. Like I don't know.
They're standing there, like listening for them right in front of them, basically.
No, you're right. Yeah, that one gets right up in front of them and is like putting its ear to them.
Yeah. I don't know. You're right. Any sort of scrutiny and the whole house of cards comes tumbling down.
Yeah.
Like maybe John in this universe played The Last of Us. It's like, I mean, if there were things clicking around like in an apocalypse, I'd be like,
you'd say, hey, everybody, I know what to do. And then one of them would come out and get you. And
I'd be like, let me just go into listen mode. I really enjoy the opening scene with the different perspectives and like them separating and coming back to this point to meet. And it's powerful, and like I don't want to talk about the next one yet, but it's I do enjoy what we get, and I enjoy getting introduced to Killian's character as subtly as you do, and then how that plays out and everything like that. But
is it weird to watch a sports game and have a different sports game on the radio? Like,
of
Luke,
America.
would you watch Knights versus Eels, but be listening to like the 1982 playoffs and be like, they were never better than they are right now? Like, I don't know.
I
Seems
mean,
like such a strange thing.
I mean,
I get that it's little league,
he
but still.
he's at his kids' game. So like, would I be at my son's touch game and be watching the Knights Eels if they were playing at the same time? Yes, yes, I probably would be.
On your
Yeah.
phone.
Conan, 1 week ago, we were in Woolworths walking down the chip aisle, and I was watching Knights Eels on my phone.
That's
'Cause I was
true.
like,
Yeah, you take
you
it with you
know,
everywhere you go.
That's a real problem.
Your son's like, "Dad, did you see my try?" You're like, "Yeah, it was probably great."
yeah, I was
But
like, good work,
look at Andrew
Caitlin
Johns
Ponga,
here.
Andrew Johns, well
He's
done.
still kicking ass.
Yeah.
You know,
Anyway, we're going off topic.
we are.
Um,
Some really good moments, like the bear trap tension thing, is really good. Seeing the daughter go out and like her in a train car and you see the monster coming up and she doesn't know it's there because she's deaf.
it's cool.
Really good. Um,
It does give you a good perspective on like this the struggle she should have in that world. Like she doesn't realize when she's made a noise necessarily. Like that's something they never really kind of touch on in the first one.
There's the scene of her clicking her finger, and then I feel like, is she like waiting to see if something's coming to get her? Like, I don't know. There's this, she puts a ear thing on and is clicking. Obviously, that's not why she's upset. But when she was clicking her finger, I was like, are they not gonna come and get that sound? If you can't like whisper to somebody, why are you clicking your finger?
Yeah, I really don't know how the sound thing works. Why can't?
But it also, like, I feel like, I guess it depends on where they're located. Like, can you find an area where they're just not near you and they won't hear it? Like you can be in the same room with them and make slight noise as you're moving, and they're trying to listen in to hear you, but they can be miles away and hear you like cough or something. Like, it doesn't make much sense. And I know we're just picking holes in it again, but it's like, I want to know how it works. Like, was it worldwide? Like, did they land in every country and they've just taken over every country? Is there countries that were spared? Like, is New Zealand all right? That's a small, like, that's a small spot to land on, like for a meteor.
Like Fiji or something like that. Like,
yeah, probably
there's lots of tiny little islands you could live on.
Island nations are laughing. Yeah. Did they start it? Did they somehow summon the aliens? We don't know.
Like, everyone's making too much noise.
I think what's better is
there's
just one monster on all of New Zealand. That's a cool idea, and it's just maybe it's I don't know. Maybe it's killing everybody or killing no one. Either way, yeah, we keep getting off topic. The boiler is cool, where they go and hide in the boiler, but that's a cool idea.
And it's kind of obvious from the start. All right, I can see what the conflict is going to be here. Like, he's set a timer. They have limited oxygen. They're going to get stuck in there at some point. But it's still, it's like the nail in the board. It's very effective, and I won't hear anything else said about it.
No, you're exactly right. Like, Krasinski isn't subtle in that. Like, even with the bear trap and they're walking through, it's like, all right, there's got to be something going wrong here. Because it's the tripwire first.
Yep.
And then, the boiler room is... And when they go to and the other part we should talk about is the wharf. When they go down to the marina. And they're like, no one's here. It's like, there's obviously got to be something here. Like, we got... He's not subtle in building suspense. Like... Sorry, he's good at building suspense, but he's not subtle in hiding what he's going to do. Like, you know exactly where it's going. Even with the cross-cutting, you're like... Because Cillian Murphy mentions, like, his dead wife, and you're like, okay, we're probably going to find the dead wife or learn something here. Like...
Yeah.
And the baby's the obvious one where they're like, is the baby going to run out of oxygen? And it's really playing that for, like... Holy shit, are you going to kill a baby? But you also know it's like he's not really going to do it.
Yeah.
But
the boy just goes out there just to explore. Like, oh, I'll just leave the baby and go explore and then trip over stuff when I see a skeleton. Like, maybe he did hide all the skeletons because he's a little bitch and he just like freaks out.
He's an embarrassment to his dad's memory.
Absolutely.
Yeah. In the first one, John Krasinski should have said, I do love her. I don't love you, though.
But
I love. Sorry, go ahead.
I'll just say, just because the first one, it just cracks me up. There is that scene when he takes his son out, and he's like, "There's nothing to be scared of." So it's like, of course there is. Like, what do you mean? I watched my little brother get ripped in half the last time we went out. Like, what is this? What do you mean? There's nothing to be scared of? What is this bullshit?
Water protects everything.
True. Yeah, the wharf.
Yeah, I just think the wharf is interesting because I had this thought in the first movie is like, how do you most I can't even say that word tonight. Apocalyptic movies. They have, they have raiders, they have humans are the real monsters.
Yep.
And these movies don't really touch on that, except for at the wharf scene in the second movie. And it's, I don't know, it's interesting to try and almost shoehorn in raiders into this universe, because how the hell does that work? Like, anybody you capture can just yell and everybody's screwed.
Mm-hmm. And that happens.
Basically, and that's what happens. Like, I don't know.
They put a noisy trap on him, and he uses the noisy trap, and they're all
exactly to kill them all. Yeah, I had the same thought. I'm like, this is a world where you can't really raid or like be that deceptive, because if someone screams when you kill them, it's like, well, you all die. I guess again, there's an interesting idea there of like what we're willing to do to survive, and that's kind of what this movie's all about, right? The first one's more about the burden of family or the duty of family. This one is like, what is Emily Blunt going to do? She's going to take her newborn child and her family across country to find survival. She's going to go across the sea if she has to, blah, blah, blah. And so I guess that idea with them is like, they're willing to put a trap on someone because they're gambling that everybody is so desperate to survive that they won't make a noise, right?
Yep.
And so it's like, maybe people are willing to be captured and tortured or eaten or whatever just to survive a little bit longer. And that's an interesting thesis there of like, what will the humans do? Again, doesn't really get explored, but
no.
Let's think, were they cannibals?
Yeah, I don't think Krasinski thought that far through. I think
they had weird scarring too. Like there's something we don't know about them.
Their skin looks wet.
But
you better believe I was Googling.
I did, because I was like, what was the deal with them? Like, and there's no answer.
There'll just be another movie. It'll be A Quiet Place, The Cult, or something like that.
The Wharf People.
The Wharf People.
Like and I think, this is where I'm like, Krasinski, I think, benefits from having some other writers as well. Like Brian Wood, Scott Beck are the ones who made the first one properly. Because I do think in this one, there is that idea of like, we need to see what other people are doing. And it's well-tested ground. Go, there's raiders, like you said, Greta. But it's really, he doesn't do a whole lot with it. It's because it's only just used as one more stepping stone until they get to the island where everything goes wrong.
Yep.
Yeah. So, I don't know. But they're creepy. Like, it is kind of creepy when they come up and looks like they've just been in the sun for a really long time.
And that's the thing. I enjoy that scene. I really like the wharf scene, and I feel like it's like, there's a lot of tension in it, and it's like, what is going on? Like, how's he going to get out of this? Like, and he alludes to him earlier in the movie where he's like, you don't know what people are like in there. But like you said, I don't know how that works in that world. Like, I can't picture them, raiding his camp, because they'd just walk in silently and be like, shh, don't yell, I'm gonna get you. Like, just
it's like,
cooperate, please, or I'll make a noise. But please don't make a noise, because then we're all dead. Like, it's weird. But hopefully in day 2, we'll find out.
Maybe. And all this obviously leads to the next part, like on the island, which is the real final act, which I think is really wasted. The whole the alien just like jumping on a boat and kind of floating over to the island is really convenient. Like,
yes,
that really takes me out of it. I'm like, I don't know what else to do there, I guess, but like, I don't know, just make a land bridge or something. It just feels really cheap to be like, there's an island, but they'll always get you if they land on boats that happen to go that way.
It's a hard problem to solve, right? Like, there's no, I can't think of a clever way to do that. Like, there's no way to have the monster hitch a ride with our main characters or anything like that,
without giving them more.
They're not that kind of monster. That's right. They're not that intelligent unless they need to be.
Yeah. So,
and that island is big. Like, he's driving a car, and there's roads and signs. Like, it's. I don't know. You get the impression it's kind of this small community, but there's a radio tower. I don't know. It could have just been a monster. I don't know. Anyway.
Yeah. Could have been other ways, but anyway, look, we got to move on. Is there anything else to say about part 2?
No. Crosscut's MVP.
Yeah. Nolan, eat your heart out.
For some reason, I thought Cillian Murphy died, and when I rewatched it again, I was like, he didn't. Cool, maybe he'll be back.
Yeah, I did too. And the first time I saw it, I thought he was going to be a bad guy. Like, I thought he was going to be. I don't know. I think they did that a bit on purpose, but
Yeah, well, I think when you go into the wharf and it's like slowly building up the tension of revealing what's upstairs. I know you think, oh, it's his dead wife, but it's also like you see the drawings and it's like, is he creepy? Like, is
Yeah.
yeah.
he gonna do something? Like,
I thought he's going to
yeah,
find a picture of himself or something, or a picture of Emily Blunt was probably the one. But yeah,
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, that would have been good.
Yeah, that's
but where you
yeah,
got
that,
that's a whole different story, though, right? Like it's
yeah.
completely different to what we get.
He's actually the father.
Okay. Oh, that's a good movie. Yeah, it is, but yeah, I don't think Krasinski's interested in that as much, but maybe he should be.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right, moving on. A Quiet Place, day one. On the day one of the outbreak, a woman named Sam finds herself trapped in New York City during the initial invasion by random alien creatures with ultra sensitive hearing. So we saw this together
We
in the Inverse
did.
Cinema. It
Cute.
was probably one of the best nights of my life.
We
It
went
was
to
Saturday.
McDonald's afterwards.
Went to Bank, walked around, got a coffee. No, we got a coffee beforehand. Either way,
Yeah.
I was surprised how many people were there. It wasn't a big turnout, but there was still more than I was expecting. But I was struck coming out of it afterwards. I'm like, do you guys think anybody else in that theater enjoyed it? Because this is a really unassuming blockbuster, right? It's marketed as like I don't know, Independence Day or something. But it is not Independence Day. It is very quiet and like a lot of gentle human moments. Like, do you guys think people are going to come out of this and be like, feel ripped off or feel upset?
Yes, I am one of them.
Segue.
I didn't have any hype for this movie until like probably 2 days before I went and watched this movie because everyone was talking it up about, wow, this movie has so much heart, like, and it's blew me away, like surprised at how much it was good. And I enjoyed it. Like, I it's probably third rung for me, but I enjoyed it. I Yeah, I don't know. I don't feel it's as memorable as the first two. I have, probably a least desired of watching it again. Um, the cat annoyed me. like, man,
Yeah.
if you think your kid's bad in the apocalypse, that you're willing to the kid's going to cause troubles in your life, like get rid of the damn cat. 'Cause the cat's gonna make.
Companion animals are trained. They don't make noise. Guide dogs
This
don't
one
bark.
does though. It's just scratching the door,
Nah,
and
it
the
was okay.
dude they almost died. But
I
anyway,
think the key with the cat was to not ever chase it. Like it will find its way. It will come back to you. Trust in the cat. Because every
Yeah,
time they
run
don't
away.
chase after it, it comes back. Yeah, you're right. Like this movie does have a lot of heart. It has some quite sweet moments. I will give it that. A lot of them felt really contrived to me in a lot of
Okay.
ways. I didn't really buy their relationship.
No.
I didn't
Joseph
really
Quinn
understand
and-
why he decided to follow her around, and
Because he was from somewhere in England and he had no one else.
she told him where to go.
No, but she. See, okay, so that part that works for me. So this movie, I really like this film. That works for me because he says that part. He's like, "I'm a lawyer. I'm from Kent. I think it's from Kent." He's like, "I'm meant to be at law school." He's like,
Yeah.
he says, "I've got no one." And so this is a good segue. What this movie does that I think is really smart is it tells a human story that utilizes the inevitable death that the characters will face, right? And in a movie like this, normally it would be like, oh, these characters overcome and survive and they find an island they could live on forever. Or they somehow conquer the issue and they live on. But this movie's like, no, we know they're going to die. So what's the value? How do you follow these characters and make it worthwhile? And the whole point of Lupita Nyong'o's character is like she finds a reason to survive or finds a reason to live again. And that's why her whole quest about trying to find a pizza is because it's finding reason because she's already confronted death by being in hospice having cancer. And Joseph Quinn's kind of the same. He's completely lost. He's got no family, nowhere to go, no one to find. And so he's just like, what's the point of going to an island? I have no one there and we'll all die anyway. Because you're right, that's the normal thing this movie would do, would send them to that and go, oh, cool, I can live. It's like, but what's the point of living? But he finds a point with her where he finds a reason to live in a seemingly pointless world. I'm like, that's really, I think that really worked for me. That's really effective. That's a really human concept. Like Mike Sonosky is a really interesting director and writer because I think that's just the most interesting thematic layer that they could go with.
But it's too quick. Like this is
Yeah.
like day
There's
2.
aliens
Like
hacking people
aliens,
apart. You think it's like,
aliens have just landed and hacking, and he's already like, I have nobody. Like I'm in this barren wasteland. It's
yes,
like no,
yes.
dude, I need to get the hell out of this city, man. Like this place is crazy. I'm going back to England.
Yeah.
Like
How are you going to get back to England, sir?
fly, get on a plane.
Oh, because the aliens will just be like, come on
It's
board.
border.
We didn't do anything in England. We just attacked America.
Yeah.
Are these terrorist aliens?
I buy her motivations. I buy what she's doing.
Absolutely.
I think her performance is really good. Like I really like what she's doing. I just don't I don't know. I don't get his motivation. Like I understand what you're pointing to. I understand it. I don't feel it.
Yeah, okay. I think this is where we're going to be. I think this is what we're going to do. Like you resonate more with the first one, and that if you're on that one's wavelength more. For whatever reason, the wavelength of this one really clicked with me.
Yeah,
like,
okay.
much more than the first. Yeah.
So, and then for me, the thing that was really glaring was like, these monsters make no sense. Like over and over again.
It's so true.
It just makes no sense. And like, there's some good moments, like it makes no sense, but where everybody's silently walking through the street, heading towards the ferries or whatever, and she's kind of walking the opposite direction, and then she realizes like, there's a fuckload of noise here, and then it shows this zoomed out view, and there's just a monster perched there. Like, good. Really well done. I really enjoyed that. That was interesting and kind of fun. But then I don't know, the helicopter making all the noise and dragging the monsters all the way across the city, and then blowing up bridges. Like, why not just drag all the monsters to a bridge, blow up the bridge, kill all the monsters? Great, there's 4 monsters left in New York. We can handle that.
Maybe they tried to. Maybe that's what they did, kill a bunch of them. We don't know.
I don't know. There still seemed to be an awful lot left that they were quite happy to drag all around New York.
Yeah, I don't know. There are a lot of questions this movie raises that it doesn't answer. One of them's that I'm like, are they trying to like isolate New York? But that kind of makes no sense because sure, like these aliens are meant to be everywhere, I assume at least.
Well, I mean,
so then
it's
like
small town Idaho or wherever the hell
John
Krasinski is.
That's in New York State, so it's like, but even that, right? It's like it's close to there. So they're obviously not just in the city. So that's like, you're meant to wonder: are they trapping everyone in the city? Are they trying to isolate and quarantine the city, or are they blowing up the city with a bunch of aliens on the bridges? I don't know. But again, like you are right, there are so many loopholes, and like there's that scene where they try to flesh out that they're eating some sort of weird cocoon.
Yes,
and
what
I'm like,
that?
The creatures are performing agriculture, making crops for everybody to eat. Like, makes no sense.
You're exactly right. Now, none of that shit works. All the lore building stuff is bad, but it's bad in all of them. And so, at this point, I'm like, that is a problem. But I'm looking at, I was looking at the wins in this. I'm like, yeah, when they're trying to flesh that out and raise questions that you can't answer, whatever. Because even with like the they go back to her apartment and the lightning cracks and they kick the door in and she screams and I'm like, I don't know, it sounds pretty different. Surely they could hear something. I don't know. But again, it's like, but if you overthink these movies, you just have a bad time.
What if you fuck up?
It's the waterfall. It's the waterfall.
What if the thunder doesn't go off?
I guess.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. But like, for me, I was so in sync with the emotional journey that I was like, and that's just what it is. I think if you're in sync with this one, if you're in sync with the first one, the problems don't matter as much.
Yeah.
I do kind of want to see this movie, but not in a Quiet Place universe, like Alien Invasion Day 1, where it's just aliens and you don't have to worry about all the sound and the lore building bullshit. Because I think Sanofsky's got a really good story here. It's just hindered by having to like tell it in a Quiet Place world. Luke?
Yeah, that's interesting. Good. Like, I feel like this movie could work with different rules, right? Like, yes, a few of your scenes change pretty fundamentally, but the overall plot much the same, right?
Exactly. The plot is exactly the same. You change, a few of the cool details, but that's it. Like, it's not a huge leap. And I don't know what the production story was. I don't know if he wanted to do this or if it was like, often, there's kind of a script that gets written into a universe. I have no idea. Luke, what did you think?
Like, that's the thing. Like, I enjoyed this film. I enjoyed the experience of going with my boys podcast boys, you know, sitting there eating popcorn.
Everyone was jealous. Everyone was jealous that the podcast was with it.
Absolutely. We should have worn merchandise, and you know,
We should have played our ad before the movie.
and then we stood up in front of him and be like, "That was us."
That was us.
Come
on.
That was us. Look at us. We're in two spots at once. Oh, so like that thing, I do enjoy it. I'll probably watch this again because it's coming to digital in a couple of weeks. My wife hasn't seen it, so I'll watch it with her. And I'll be interested to see how my opinion goes with it. I got really hyped for it just before it came out, so I feel like maybe that's played a role in being disappointed in it. I went into this expectation of like, oh no, this is going to be really good. Like this is going to be better than the other two. And yeah, I liked the main characters' performances. I felt like there was something missing though. Like I don't know. Like I guess that's the part of a prequel is like I already know that a couple of years from now, like none of this stuff really matters. Like all this is moved on. If they had pre-cast Joseph Quinn as one of the wharf people, maybe I would have been like, man, what happens to this guy and his cat? Like shit goes wrong. I want to know more about that. But I it does have heart. I enjoyed this like the chemistry between the two and the whole plot of her getting pizza and that's all she cares about and wants. Him getting onto the boat at the end and seeing my boy Jimon
hanging out with Jimon Honsu. We all know what's
going to end well for him.
Go south for him, unfortunately.
I wonder, was he on the island too? Like, who knows? But yeah, like, I think I actually was intrigued by the idea of what happens on day one. Like, I really was. And Bird Box kind of does it as well when it all goes to shit in Bird Box, since we talked about that earlier. Like, I feel like I remember them opening scenes and like in the hospital, and it's like the world's going chaos. Like, what's going on? Like, there's this strange phenomena that's taken over. And this could have been the same thing where I felt like maybe I would have enjoyed this from a bigger perspective of seeing what was happening around the city, not just from this one person's perspective, but seeing it from a bunch of things of like maybe I would have enjoyed that story more. It's a story of a group of survivors in different parts, and then you can do your cross shots and stuff like that of them coming together, or I don't know, but
no. But I think that would be the movie that you said you wouldn't like, because that's the movie that the whole time you're going, I know what happens. I know what they're going to do. They're all going to die. Unless you're out in rural New York in a farm, you're going to die. Like, and that's why I think this movie does the best. It's the best version of it can be, because it's like it never tries to make you're like, oh God, I want to see these guys survive. You are told from the first scene, Lupita Nyong'o is going to die. From the first scene that as soon as you see Jimon Honsu, you're like, oh, he's going to die. So you're already used to. There's no false tension of like what's going to happen to these characters, but instead it's like, why? It just tells a human story. It's like, but why should you empathize with these characters? Why should you understand them?
Yeah.
And things like the magic show's pretty corny, but like the puppet show and their quiet moments in the bar, I think are these really good moments where it's like, oh yeah, these are just people who are like, we found something. We found some light in this dark moment. And I'm like, that, because that's why most apocalypse movies don't do day one. Walking Dead skips it. 28 Days Later skips it. They all have a character wake up after the fact, because it's way too hard to create a world where it's just like everyone's dying in the first moments. Whereas, this is the one that goes, no, I'll try it, and I'm not going to have you be like, oh, I don't need to care about anyone because they'll die. It's like, no, here's a human story that happens in there, and that's films, baby. That's drama. Yeah. That's why we go to the movies.
Where were the people printing out the newspapers that we saw in the first movie?
I know. That annoyed me.
Like, it was like newspapers as if they've been made weeks after. They're like, it's sound, guys. The monsters we've been dealing with, it's sound.
Oh, no, I forgot about that newspaper. That's the one that makes absolutely no sense. Like, who's printing a newspaper?
Who's printing a newspaper and then getting it out?
It's like, guys, we've got 30 seconds before the monster comes and destroys this printing press. Get these out of there. But that's not Michael Sanofsky's fault. That's John Krasinski's fault. Take it up with him.
But we only know it was a problem because we've seen day one. Although
that was also Krasinski's fault.
The sequel was also the problem. But yeah,
that's right. Yeah, I get, yeah, no, I fully agree. Like that is this movie definitely has problems, but
Interesting to do the stuff with the egg thing that they're eating out of in this movie, though. You know, like they've just gotten here and they're already doing this sort of stuff. Like I don't know, you'd think they would come into play later, but
That felt to me like we're going to make 18 more of these movies. Let's start building out this universe now. Like, let's drop in little bits of lore as we go, and we can, we can discover the Queen in the 4th movie.
That was my question. Yeah, do we get A Quiet Place Part 3?
Yes.
And were all these moments just like the production company going, guys, we gotta have some big reveals. We gotta have some story because we're also getting a video game. Quiet Place.
Yeah.
Something like. So you're right. I think they're really trying to make this big. Like, do you guys reckon we get the next one up? Luke, you do? Or you don't? You
Absolutely,
don't think
absolutely, we get another one. I just had the whole thought of like a game. I'm like, come on, man, we've got one. But
why? Like, wait. You're happy for that game to be remade over and over and over again, but you won't let someone make a similar game? Let's remake this game over and over again. Let's make a TV show out of it. Hell, let's make a movie out of it. But no, nobody else can make a post-apocalyptic movie about sound-based creatures. That's not okay.
I don't know what you're saying. Yeah, absolutely, we get a part 3. Joseph Quinn will meet Emily Blunt and Cillian Murphy, because why the hell not?
Do you think part 3 continues those characters?
Emily Blunt and everything? Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
John
Krasinski's involved. He's getting his wife paid.
Yeah, he wants. Yeah, he's got more houses to buy.
I think, like I don't know. There was something like I feel like the poster of like Quiet Place 1, it's her in the bathtub. A Quiet Place 2 is her. She's got a shotgun. She's like the star of these films. I feel like she's who you build them around.
I think it'll be like the Star Wars thing. Like the main entries will be about the Abbott family and her.
Yep.
But there'll be peripherals. Yeah, like you're right. There'll be A Quiet Place, the Marinas, and it'll just be about this cult that forms. And there'll be, I don't know, A Quiet Place, New Zealand, where they're always like, what's going on?
The Wolf one, and like the movie ends at the Wolf one, where they're like, oh wait, here comes Cillian Murphy. Let's see what happens here.
Exactly,
right, guys. Come on, kids. Let's go. Meet the new people.
No, I think their plan is to do a lot more spin-offs like this that flesh out the universe.
But like you're coming up with a solution. Like they've got a solution that is pretty damn good of killing these things at the moment now with this speaker thing. If they can blast that and they open up their heads and you shoot them in the head, it's not like they're then impervious stuff. Like it's one shot's taking them out. Like a handgun to the head with them exposed from the sound is killing them. So if once that gets out, how long can they really last with whatever's left of like what's the military? Where is this world's military now?
That's the thing though. I think that forces the third movie to then be to flesh out the universe more, and I think that's what these movies do the worst. I don't know. I don't think they do a third. I think they do peripheral movies. I think the third ends with like we've solved the problem.
It was sound.
Obviously, they can like create a wrinkle in that, but I don't know. I feel like they did that to get from the first one to the second one. They're gonna have to do it again.
I think they've got themselves in a weird spot where they want to do a third one, but if Krasinski wants to do it as well, I think he does care about the human stuff. He doesn't care about the law. But I think, I don't know if this is all Paramount. The first one was Paramount. I don't know who's making the second one. It must still be them. But I think you're right. The production company wants more law. So I think there's got to be if there is a third coming, I wonder if it'll take a while because there'll be that weird, like, there'll be creative differences and it might end up being like Spider-Man 3 where, Krasinski disowns it or something. But because I don't think he wants to tell a story, but I think there are just dollar signs in expanding this universe, which is...
You don't think he wants to do a part 3?
I think he might, but I think he'll want to do a different one. I think Ryder's right in that if they make part 3, the production company will be like, all right, we need to have more stuff that we fleshed out that they're making cocoons. We need to have those in this, and we need to expand this universe. And I don't think he'll want to do that. I think he wants to tell the smaller human story. But that's what I mean. This trilogy's got itself in a weird spot where the creative vision is very different to what the business vision will be. So I wonder if it just takes a while because there'll be tensions there.
And they know once they solve the problem and actually beat them, then it's done. Like, no one cares about going back in time to when they were still around after they've defeated them.
I mean, that's a kick-ass version of the story. They build a time machine, go back to day one. John Krasinski's like, Lupita Nyong'o.
Speakers everywhere.
Yeah, just like put this on the bridge. Oh, but then she goes to do it and the bridge gets blown up. Yeah, that's dope.
That's just where I put all the speakers. So.
Yeah. All right. I got it. All right. We've probably gone on too long. Any final thoughts about Quiet Place Part 1, 2, or 3 before we rank them?
No.
Get rid of your cat if this apocalypse happens.
Said by a man who owns several cats. All right, let's rank them. I'll go first.
He would happily get rid of them even without an apocalypse.
Yes, 100%. They're the first thing that's going.
Yeah. For me, I'm going to say Quiet Place Day 1 is number 1. So I'm going to say this goes.
Wow.
Woohoo!
Day 1 is number 1.
Wow.
On this rewatch, I enjoyed 2 more. I don't know. I want to say it goes in reverse order, but 1 is probably a better film. So I'll go Day 1, Part 1, Part 2.
I'm just straight 1, 2, 3 all the way.
Just gets worse for you. Okay.
Yep.
I definitely have the third one at number 3.
Criminal.
I'm really torn on the first 2, but I'd probably say 1, 2, 3. No problem. There's just something about 1, the simplicity of it and the quiet moments. Like number 2's got great pacing and it's got momentum, and I feel like the tension's better. But there's something about 1 of just being like, the world feels empty in number 1, like really empty, where it's like there's not people for miles and miles, and they're all just staying in their own farms. Like, you good still, man? Okay, yeah, I'm good still. Let's just keep being quiet.
Yeah, but all the human moments are done better in Day 1.
No.
Anyway, Lupita Nyong'o is better than John Krasinski. Like, I could go on. I could go on all day. All day.
Statement.
Sorry, strong white man better than the black woman. Hey, fellas, should have known. Should have known.
Go on, they brought race into this.
All right. Thank you for joining us on the Good, Bad, and the Worst. Next week we're going to do duology. We're doing Twister and then Twister Zzz.
Twisters.
So
could this be a Top Gun Maverick?
That is the question.
Very possibly. Yeah. Glenn Powell is in this one as well. Glenn Powell.
It's in good hands. Lee Isaac Chung, really good director. So it could be the Maverick of this year. But we'll see. So join us 2 weeks for that. Thank you again. This podcast is brought to you by some books I wrote. If you want road movies filled with horror and drama, that's your jam.
Great books by Cormac.
Yeah, you should probably read The Road. It's pretty good. But I also wrote Taste of Iron and The God Grotesque. If you like this podcast, please like, share, and subscribe. Spotify, iTunes, anywhere else you get your podcasts. Thank you once again, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.